Welcome to an overview of Child Care Resource and Referral's Emergency Preparedness and Response Plan template for child care centers. Beginning on October 1st, 2016, Iowa law requires child care providers to have a written emergency plan in place. Emergency plans must include procedures for evacuation and relocation, sheltering in place, lockdown, addressing the individual needs of children, including those with functional or access needs, communication and reunification with parents and other approved individuals, and continuity of operations. An emergency or disaster can happen at any time. Emergencies and disasters can range from something that happens at your center, such as a child injury or fire, to something that involves your neighborhood or community, such as flooding, high winds, or tornado damage. There are several goals of developing such a plan, but ultimately it is to help you be aware of and prepare for hazards, emergencies, and disasters, and to reduce the impact of said emergencies on your business, and most importantly, the children you care for. Providers who have experienced disasters are thankful that they took the time to develop a plan and found the plan useful in being better prepared when a disaster impacted their business. The Child Care Emergency Preparedness and Response Plan is a document that child care providers can use to help prepare for emergency events. This particular plan can be found on CCR&R's website under the Emergency Preparedness tab. You don't have to use this plan. However, if you choose to use this template, it'll help you meet all the requirements of Iowa law. There are a couple of formats of this document, so you can download it and save it for your individual use. It's available in Word and Adobe. It's also available in Spanish. There is a template with guided questions in each section to help you develop your plan. This video displays the version of that template with the guided questions. You'll design this plan specifically to meet the needs of your individual program. The plan will be based on your location and assessment of potential hazards in your community. Include what is required for your program. A few suggestions to keep in mind as you develop the emergency plan. Keep your plan simple so you and any substitutes, assistants, or co-providers can remember the important steps if an emergency happens. Keep your plan in a place where it is available for reference. Train and practice your plan regularly so everyone knows what needs to be done. Your actions should be instinctive and decisive. And update your plan at least annually. Make necessary changes after conducting drills or an actual event. Your local CCR&R child care consultant can help you develop the plan and identify resources in your area. Let's look at the first section. In an emergency, it is easy to forget basic information. Completing this section in your Child Care Emergency Preparedness and Response Plan ensures important information is easily accessible to everyone, including substitutes, assistants, co-providers, or emergency responders. Ensure all boxes are completed with your program's information and update as needed or as information changes. Be sure to change the date so everyone is aware the plan is up to date. Having all emergency contact numbers listed allows you to have information readily available. In a stressful situation, it's an easy reference to use. List all local emergency numbers, including the non-emergency numbers for police and fire. List all numbers needed to get an outside line and an area code. For example, some centers must dial 9 first to get to an outside line. Community partners are necessary to list in your program plan. Partners can be businesses or other child care centers that you need to call if you need quick assistance. Identifying an out-of-state contact person is necessary if local communications are not available, in order to ensure that parents and emergency personnel have a base of communication. After completing basic and emergency contact information, the next step in developing your emergency plan is to identify emergencies and possible disasters that are most likely to happen at your child care center and in your community. Check all possible emergencies, disasters, or additional events likely to happen in your area. Some examples include a chemical spill, train derailment, flooding, or gas leaks. Refer to the appropriate DHS requirements for your program found on the CCR&R website in relation to each of those. The Risk and Hazard Assessment tool helps to identify possible emergencies, hazards, and threats to your program. An instructional video for using this tool is on CCR&R's website under the Emergency Preparedness tab. Providers must have a plan in place ahead of time in order to ensure children are safely reunited with their families. When picking up a child, you must release that child only to authorized individuals. Your process may include photo identification before releasing that child. There is a child release form on CCR&R's website that provides documentation of who you can release the child to. If there is sufficient warning and it's safe to do so, try to reunite children with their families before an emergency or disaster happens. In extreme disaster situations, you may not be able to reach parents or an authorized emergency contact. If no one can be found to release the child to, and you're no longer able to provide extended hours of care, contact your local police department to determine next steps and follow up with the Department of Human Services when possible. There are more resources on the CCR&R website, such as the Child Release Form, Child Identification Form, Child Enrollment Information Form, and a parent letter with emergency information that may be helpful with this step. Videos on these forms are also available on the CCR&R website. As you develop your emergency plan, keep in mind that the plan should be detailed enough to address all possible events, but not so complex that you, any substitutes, assistants, co-providers, or parents have a difficult time remembering the necessary steps when a disaster or emergency happens. When developing your program's evacuation procedures, use the questions in each box to guide you. Important considerations to include are name-to-face counting regularly, emergency medications, plans for pets and how you plans might need to change based on weather, for example, clearing pathways of snow. Additional resources that may be helpful are on CCR&R's website, including videos for evacuation drill permission forms, practice drill evaluation tool, practice drill recording form, site diagram for evacuations, relocation posting, and relocation shelter agreement. All programs must have a shelter-in-place plan. If there is a weather-related emergency, chemical spill, or an intruder in the area, you need a plan of where and how you will stay safe in your facility. When developing your emergency procedures, use the questions in each box to guide you. Remember, the plan is specific to your center. Consider if you need to remain in that space for an extended amount of time, whether it's hours or even days. What is needed? During the derecho in August 2020, for example, it was discovered that more flashlights were needed for an extended amount of time due to long-term power outages. Check your supplies frequently to make sure they are sufficient, so the food is not spoiled, batteries are fresh, and supplies meet the current children using the space. The supply list on CCR&R's website under the Emergency Preparedness tab is a helpful tool. Use the guided questions in each section to develop your program's lockdown plan. Reach out to your community partners for guidance on lockdown procedures and best practices. Community partners may include your first responders, law enforcement, emergency management, or local schools. There are great resources to aid your program in creating lockdown procedures at your location. Remember, the plan is specific to your program. Based on your potential risk assessment identified in Section 3, complete this section to create plans for each hazard not already addressed in your emergency procedures. Consider hazards that may happen in your area, such as a train derailment, chemical spill, water contamination, flash flooding, power outage, nuclear contamination, and more. Refer to the Emergency Preparedness and Response Plan Guide for additional guidance, or contact your local CCR&R or child care nurse consultant to help identify and support planning for local hazards and other events. This section of the plan helps your program to decide how you protect your computer hardware and software, how you will access important documents if your computer is destroyed, where your program will keep backup records, and how your program can provide continuity for accounting and payroll if records are destroyed. This is important to have in place to aid your program in continuity of operations or recovery after an emergency. Next steps in your plan should include how you will recover, what resources you need, and how you will continue to offer care to families safely. The damage assessment form found on CCR&R's website will help you prioritize repairs based on what you need to do to reopen your business. Providers are not required to complete a damage assessment form, but the information will help your families and the community better understand the impact of the disaster. If service can no longer be provided at your location, and you have an alternate location available, you'll need to determine what steps you must complete before providing childcare at that alternative location. DHS regulatory staff and your CCR&R staff can help you with this process. You may need to wait on DHS and/or public health to tell you if and when it's safe to reopen. Make sure to let your DHS compliance worker and CCR&R consultant know of your current status. Trauma often follows disasters. The plan can help you prepare for emotional trauma that children and families may experience. childcare can be a source of stability for the children and families. Look at the resources listed on CCR&R's website under the Emergency Preparedness tab for more resources. Iowa law requires you to complete both fire and tornado drills monthly and document information about that drill. Depending on the risks you identified and the procedures in your emergency plan, there may be other types of drills to practice, such as evacuation, lockdown, etc. After conducting a drill, it is important to evaluate what worked and what needs improvement, and then update your emergency plan accordingly. The Emergency Practice Drill Evaluation tool helps you to do just that. If you make updates to your emergency plan, remember to indicate the revision date on the plan and let parents and community partners know about the changes as appropriate. After practicing a monthly drill, it's a good time to check smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, fire extinguishers, and evacuation equipment and batteries. The record of detector, fire extinguishers, evacuation equipment checks is another tool you can use to document all of this. Check your emergency supplies monthly and replenish as needed. If you're looking for the other forms and videos that were just mentioned on this recording, check out our main EP training page. Or if you're ready to take a deeper, all-inclusive dive into emergency preparedness, check out CCR&R's Emergency Preparedness for Childcare Programs training. The links are up on your screen now. Thank you.